A poor mother stops eating so her daughter can eat. The billionaire in the restaurant sees everything and does the unbelievable. The restaurant was simple, but it had its own charm. Clean tables, comfortable chairs, a welcoming atmosphere. Nothing extravagant but well kept. The walls were painted a light color with discreet pictures hanging here and there. The smell of home-cooked food filled the air. It was the kind of place that served honest food for a fair price. There were all sorts of customers there. People from the neighborhood, workers on their lunch break, families with small children. Elena walked in holding her daughter's hand. Chloe was 5 years old, with light blonde hair pulled back in a slightly crooked ponytail and big, curious blue eyes. The little girl looked at everything with that childlike attention, as if every detail was a discovery. The small tables, the colorful plates in the waiters' hands, the clatter of silverware. "Here, my love." Elena pointed to a table in the corner near the window. They sat down. The chair creaked slightly as Elena pulled it out. Chloe climbed onto hers with some difficulty, putting her knees up first. Elena adjusted her daughter, pushing the chair closer to the table. Elena picked up the laminated menu and glanced at the prices. She read each item carefully. Calculated mentally. She counted the crumpled bills in the pocket of her jeans without taking her hand out. She let out a soft, almost imperceptible sigh. "We'll share a little plate, okay?" she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Chloe nodded but frowned. She didn't quite understand, but she didn't ask any more questions. The waitress appeared, pen in hand, a polite smile on her face. She must have been in her 40s with her hair in a bun. "Do you know what you'd like?" Elena cleared her throat. "1 plate of pasta with sauce, please." "Just one?" "Yes, just one." The waitress wrote it down and left without comment. When she was out of sight, Chloe rested her chin on her small hands and looked at her mother. Elena looked away, toward the window. She knew her daughter was suspicious. Chloe was small but too smart for her age. She noticed things. She felt things. "I'm really hungry, Mommy," the little girl said softly. "I know, sweetie." "It'll be here soon," Elena replied, affectionately stroking her daughter's hair. At a table near the other window, a man was reading something on his phone while drinking coffee. He looked to be in his early 30s, wearing a well-fitted dark suit and a white shirt with no tie. The suit looked expensive, tailor-made. Brown hair combed back, his posture relaxed but elegant. He seemed comfortable there, as if he had known the place for a long time. He was a regular. He came whenever he could, even though he could afford to dine at the most expensive and sophisticated places in the city. But he liked it there. The simplicity, the no-fuss food, the unpretentious atmosphere. The real people who frequented the place. His name was Owen, but Elena didn't know that yet. She didn't know anything about him. Not that he was a lawyer, not that he had money, not that this restaurant was the only place where he could feel normal. Owen looked up from his phone and, unintentionally, glanced at the table in the corner. He saw the blonde woman with light-colored eyes, too thin, simple clothes, clean but worn. The tired expression of someone who hadn't slept well in weeks, maybe months. And he saw the little girl beside her, small, smiling even, without fully understanding the situation they were in. He looked back at his phone, but the scene stayed in his mind. He couldn't concentrate on what he was reading anymore. The plate of pasta arrived a few minutes later. The waitress placed it on the table carefully. It was a medium portion. Not generous, but enough for one person. Elena picked up the fork. She served a good portion onto Chloe's plate, then another and a little more. She pushed it all toward her daughter's side, leaving only a few strands of pasta for herself. Chloe looked at her full plate, then at her mother's empty one. "Mommy, aren't you going to eat?" Elena smiled, a smile that tried to hide everything. The hunger, the exhaustion, the shame. "You can eat it all, sweetie." Chloe hesitated. She held her fork without touching the food for a few seconds. She looked at her mother one more time, with that suspicious look children have when they sense something isn't right. But her hunger was greater. Her stomach ached. She began to eat, slowly, chewing carefully as her mother always taught her. Elena just watched, smiling in a way that tried to hide the pain in her chest. Every forkful Chloe brought to her mouth was a small victory. At least her daughter was eating. At least she wasn't going hungry at that moment. Owen saw everything. He saw the woman pretend she wasn't hungry. He saw her serve all the food to the child. He saw the little girl eat without understanding why her mother only watched. He saw the silent sacrifice happening right there at that corner table near the window, with no audience, no drama, with no one paying attention except him. He put his phone down on the table, took a deep breath. He knew what he was going to do. He didn't think too much. He just felt he had to. He called the waitress with a discreet gesture. "Yes, Mr. Owen," she appeared quickly. "Could you send another plate of pasta to that table over there?" He motioned with his head toward Elena and Chloe. The waitress looked in the indicated direction and understood immediately. She had seen similar situations before. She knew the stories that unfolded in that restaurant every day. Of course. Should I say anything? No. Just send it over, and put what they ordered on my bill too. She gave a slight, approving smile and went to write down the order. Owen went back to his phone as if nothing had happened, but his heart was beating a little faster. He didn't know why it affected him so much. Maybe it reminded him of something. Maybe it was simply the right thing to do. A few minutes later, the waitress appeared with another steaming plate of pasta. She placed it on Elena's table gently, carefully. Elena's eyes widened. She looked at the plate as if it had appeared out of nowhere. "Excuse me, I think there's been a mistake. We didn't order this," she said, confused. "Someone sent it to you," the waitress replied with a kind smile, and left before Elena could ask anything else. Elena sat frozen, looking at the plate as if it were unreal, as if it would disappear if she blinked. She looked around, trying to figure out who had done it. But no one was looking back. No one seemed to be paying attention. Everyone kept eating, talking, living. "Mommy, look! Another plate!" Chloe clapped her hands, excited. Eleanor swallowed hard. She felt her eyes sting. A lump formed in her throat. But she held back the tears with all her might. She wasn't going to cry there, not in front of her daughter. Not in front of strangers. "Now you can eat too, Mommy." Chloe smiled with her mouth full, happy. Elena slowly picked up her fork. Her hand trembled a little. She didn't know who had done it, but she knew what it meant. Someone had seen. Someone had cared. Someone had extended a hand when she needed it most. She ate in silence. Each forkful seemed to weigh more than it should. It wasn't just food, it was dignity. It was the feeling that, for a moment, someone had seen her as more than invisible. As a person. As a mother trying to do the best she could. Chloe chattered excitedly, telling stories about the park where they had been earlier, asking non-stop questions about what they were going to do next. Eleanor answered on autopilot, but her mind was elsewhere. Who could have done that? Why? Owen finished his coffee, paid the bill at the counter, and sat for a few more minutes. He glanced over at their table. The little girl was laughing, swinging her little legs that didn't reach the floor. The mother ate slowly, as if she were trying to make that moment last as long as possible, as if she wanted to commit every second to memory. He stood up, picked up the jacket that was on the back of his chair, and left without looking back. When Elena and Chloe finished eating, Elena wiped her daughter's mouth with a napkin, fixed the hair that had escaped her ponytail, and took the empty plates to the counter. Chloe held her hand, skipping lightly with each step. "How much is it?" Elena asked the cashier, already taking the bills from her pocket. The man behind the counter, about 50, with glasses on his nose, looked at his notepad and shook his head with a smile. "It's already been paid." Elena blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "Someone already paid for everything. Your bill is settled." "But who? I need to know who it was." The cashier shrugged. "I can't say, ma'am, but don't you worry. It's all taken care of." Elena stood there, not knowing what to do. The bills were still in her hand. She felt her face flush. She didn't know if it was shame, gratitude, or anger at herself for being in that situation, for needing the kindness of strangers. "Mommy, can we go?" Chloe tugged at her hand, tired of waiting. Before Eleanor could turn, a calm voice came from behind her. "I hope you enjoyed your meal." She turned quickly. It was the man in the suit. He was standing there, near the door, hands in his pockets, a calm expression on his face. He didn't look like someone expecting thanks. He didn't have that smug smile of someone giving charity. He just seemed sincere. Eleanor opened her mouth, but nothing came out at first. Her voice failed. Then she stammered, "Was it you?" Owen just tilted his head slightly, confirming without saying a word. "You didn't have to," she began, but her voice failed again. "Sometimes you do," he replied with a half smile. It wasn't a smug smile. It wasn't pity. It was simple, honest. The kind that says, "I understand," without needing to explain. Chloe looked at him curiously, squeezing her mother's hand tightly. She tilted her little head to the side, studying the tall man in the suit. "Thank you," Elena finally managed to say. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Really, thank you so much," Owen nodded. "Have a good day," he said, and took a step to leave. "Wait," Elena called, stepping forward. "What's your name?" He stopped, turned slightly. "Owen." "Elena, and this is Chloe." Owen smiled at the little girl, who smiled back shyly. "It was a pleasure to meet you," he said, and then he left, without waiting for more replies, without creating a scene. He just walked away, leaving Elena standing there with her daughter, trying to process what had just happened. Elena stared at the door he had walked through. She knew nothing about him besides his name, but she knew that his gesture, perhaps small to him, had been enormous for her. It had meant more than he could possibly imagine. "He was nice," Chloe said, looking up. "He was," Elena agreed softly, "very nice." They left the restaurant hand in hand. The afternoon sun hit the sidewalk. The street traffic continued as always. Cars passed. People walked hurriedly with bags and briefcases. Life went on at its own pace. But something had changed for Elena. She couldn't get that man out of her head. Owen. It wasn't attraction. It wasn't that. It was something else. It was the reminder that there were still good people in the world. People who saw. People who acted without expecting anything in return. She squeezed Chloe's hand and kept walking, with a lump in her throat and a strange feeling in her chest, a mixture of shame and hope, of gratitude and sadness, of weight and lightness at the same time, because she knew she needed that, and that hurt. It hurt to admit. It hurt to accept. It hurt to be seen in that vulnerability. But it also lit something inside her, something that had been extinguished a long time ago. A small, weak flame, but one that still burned, the will to keep trying, the hope that things could get better. That night, lying on the thin mattress in their rented room, with Chloe sleeping beside her, breathing peacefully and deeply, Elena stared at the cracked ceiling. She thought about the man in the suit, Owen. She thought about the plate of pasta. She thought about how a simple, quick gesture, almost nothing to him, had made such a difference to her. She didn't know if she would see him again. Probably not. The city was big. People crossed paths and disappeared. That was life. But she held that moment in her heart, as a reminder that she wasn't completely alone, that there was still kindness in the world, and that maybe, just maybe, things could change. 3 days later, Owen was walking through downtown. It was mid-morning, the sun already high. He had just left a meeting at a nearby office and decided to walk back. He liked to walk, to think, to observe. The streets were busy, people going in and out of stores, cars stopped at the light, the constant noise of the city. Then he saw them. Across the street, 2 familiar figures, light blonde hair reflecting the sunlight. Eleanor and Chloe. They were walking slowly along the sidewalk, stopping in front of each business. Eleanor looked at the windows, read signs, hesitated. Sometimes she went in, sometimes she just looked and moved on. Chloe held her mother's hand, looking tired, her small legs trying to keep up. Owen crossed the street. When he got closer, Elena was standing in front of a clothing store, reading a sign in the window. Now hiring. She took a deep breath and went inside. Owen waited outside. Chloe sat on a small bench near the door, swinging her legs. A few minutes later, Elena came out. The expression on her face said it all. It hadn't worked out. That's when she saw him. Owen was there, standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Owen?" He gave a slight smile and walked closer. "Hi, Elena." She nervously fixed her hair. "Hi, I didn't expect to see you here." "I work nearby," he explained. "I saw you two walking." Elena looked down, embarrassed. "We're just looking for a few things." Owen didn't have to ask what. It was obvious. He looked at Chloe, who smiled shyly. "Are you doing okay, Chloe?" The little girl nodded. "I'm tired." "I can imagine," he said with a gentle smile. There was a brief silence. Elena fidgeted with the strap of the old bag she carried on her shoulder. "Have you been walking for long?" Owen asked. Eleanor sighed. "Since early this morning, I left as soon as the sun came up." "Looking for work?" She hesitated, but nodded. "Yes, anything. Cleaning, kitchen help, cashier. Really, anything." Owen looked at Chloe again. "And her?" "I don't have anyone to leave her with," Eleanor said quietly. "So she comes with me." "I know it's not ideal, but I understand." Eleanor bit her lip. She seemed ashamed of being in this situation, of being seen like this, of needing help again. "Have you found anything?" Owen asked. Eleanor shook her head. "No, everyone asks for experience, references, a social security number. Things I don't have anymore." She said anymore, as if she'd had them before, as if life had been different once. Owen was silent for a few seconds. He thought, calculated, weighed his options. Then he made a decision. "Do you know how to organize files?" Elena blinked, confused by the change of subject. "Files?" "Yes. Papers, documents, folders. Organizing, cataloging, that sort of thing." I think so. I mean, I've never done it professionally, but I can read, write, organize things." "Then you can do it," Owen said, directly. Elena frowned, not understanding where he was going with this. "Why?" Owen crossed his arms, thoughtful. "I work at a law firm. It's small, just me and 2 other partners. We have a room full of old files that no one has ever properly organized. We need someone to do it." Elena's eyes widened. "Are you offering me a job?" "I am." She stood there, processing. It didn't seem real. "But you barely know me." "I know enough," Owen answered simply. "Isn't there anyone else? Someone with experience?" "You don't need experience to organize paper," he said. "You need attention to detail and dedication, and I think you have both." Eleanor felt her eyes sting again. She swallowed hard. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take it," Owen suggested with a half smile. Eleanor looked at Chloe, who had gotten up from the bench and was now holding her hand tightly. "What about her? I still can't leave her anywhere. I don't have money for daycare. I don't have anyone to help." Owen thought for a moment. "She can stay at the office. We have a small empty room we don't use. We can put some chairs in there, some toys, paper for drawing. She can stay there while you work." Elena was speechless. It seemed too good to be true. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Owen looked her in the eyes. He didn't look away. "Because you need it, and because I can help. Simple as that. No beating around the bush. No ulterior motives." Elena took a deep breath. She felt something shift inside her chest, a door opening, a light coming in. "I accept," she said firmly. Owen smiled. "Great. Can you start tomorrow?" "I can. What time?" 8 in the morning. The address is 247 Wellington Street, 3rd floor. Elena repeated it in her head. "Wellington, 247, 3rd floor. I'll be there." "I know you will," Owen said. Chloe tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, are we going to work?" Elena knelt down to her daughter's level, holding the small face between her hands. "Mommy is going to work, my love, and you're going to stay in a nice little room drawing, okay?" Chloe smiled. "Okay." Elena stood up. She looked at Owen with gratitude written all over her face. "Thank you, really." "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me. Just show up tomorrow, he said, already starting to walk away. And don't be late. Eleanor laughed nervously. I won't. Owen waved and left, heading back to his office. Eleanor stood there, holding Chloe's hand, watching him walk away. She couldn't believe it. After days of walking, of knocking on doors, of hearing no, something had finally worked out. And it wasn't luck. It was him, Owen. Again. Mommy, can we go home? Chloe asked. Let's go, sweetie. They walked back to the rented room, but this time the path felt lighter. Elena had a job, she had a chance, she had hope. That night, she could barely sleep. She kept thinking about what she would wear, how she would act, how she would do the best job possible, because she knew this was the opportunity she had been waiting for, and she wasn't going to waste it. Elena arrived 15 minutes early. The building was old but well maintained. She climbed the stairs to the third floor, holding Chloe's hand. The little girl was dressed up, her hair tied back, her clothes simple but clean. Elena had spent the whole night thinking about this moment. The office door had a discreet plaque, Smith & Associates, attorneys at law. Elena took a deep breath and knocked. Come in. Owen's voice came from inside. She opened the door. The office was bigger than she had imagined. Spacious, with a few desks, shelves full of books and files, and large windows that let the light in. It smelled of paper and coffee. Owen was standing near a desk, leafing through some documents. When he saw Eleanor and Chloe, he smiled. Punctual. I like that. Eleanor smiled back, nervously. Good morning. Good morning, he approached and knelt in front of Chloe. And you, did you sleep well? Chloe nodded shyly. I did. Great. Come on, I'll show you where you'll be staying. Owen led them down a short hallway. He opened a door at the end. It was a small, empty room, but clean. It had a window, a low table, and 2 chairs. I brought some things for you, Owen said, pointing to a bag in the corner. Eleanor walked over and looked inside. Colored pencils, notebooks, paper, a few coloring books. You didn't have to... Yes, I did, he cut in, gently. This way, she'll stay busy while you work. Chloe ran to the bag and grabbed a box of colored pencils, her eyes shining. How can I use them, Mummy? You can, my love. Owen left the room and Elena helped Chloe get settled. She put paper on the little table, opened the box of pencils, and left everything within her daughter's reach. You stay here and draw, okay? If you need me, just call. Okay, Mummy. Elena kissed the girl's forehead and left, closing the door slowly. Owen was waiting in the hallway. Ready? Ready. He led her to another, larger room at the back of the office. When he opened the door, Eleanor's eyes widened. It was chaos. Stacked boxes, scattered folders, papers everywhere, disorganized shelves, unlabeled documents, years of accumulation. This is the archive, Owen said, almost apologetically. No one's ever had the time to organize it properly. We just throw things in here. Elena walked in slowly, looking around. Where do I start? Wherever you think is best. The idea is to catalog everything by year, by client, by case type. Create a system so we can find things when we need them. Elena nodded. I can do that. Owen smiled. I know you can. If you need anything, I'm in the next room, and there's coffee in the kitchen. Help yourself whenever you want. Thank you. He left, closing the door. Elena was alone. She looked at the chaos around her, took a deep breath, rolled up her imaginary sleeves and began. First, she emptied an entire shelf. She took everything out, wiped away the dust, organized the folders by size. Then she started opening the boxes, one by one. She read the documents, separating them by subject. Labor cases on one side, contracts on the other, correspondence in another pile. She worked without stopping. Every now and then, she'd go to Chloe's little room, check if everything was okay. The girl was drawing, concentrated, her tongue sticking out, creating colorful worlds on paper. Is everything okay, sweetie? Yes, Mommy. Look what I drew. Elena would smile, kiss her blonde head, and go back to work. The hours passed. Owen showed up mid-morning with a glass of water. How's it going? Elena wiped the sweat from her forehead, leaving a dusty smudge. Good. I've already sorted through half of these boxes. I think I can finish the first shelf by the end of the week. Owen looked around. The change was already visible. Less chaos, more order. You work fast, Elena shrugged. I don't have time to waste. He understood. It wasn't just a phrase, it was the truth. At lunch, Owen brought sandwiches for everyone. They ate in the little room with Chloe, who proudly showed off every drawing she had made. This one is you, Mommy, and this is the nice man. She pointed to two stick figures. Owen laughed. Nice man. That's you, Chloe said, as if it were obvious. Elena blushed. Chloe. It's nice, Owen said, sincerely. Can I keep this one? Chloe nodded excitedly. You can. He folded the paper carefully and put it in his jacket pocket. After lunch, Eleanor went back to the archive. The afternoon flew by. She created labels, organized folders alphabetically, set up a color-coded system. Red for urgent, yellow for review, green for archived. She didn't even stop to catch her breath. When the clock struck 5, Owen knocked on the door. Elena, you can stop for today. She looked up, surprised. Already? Already, he said, looking at the room. And you've done much more than I expected. Eleanor looked around. Half the room was transformed. Organized shelves, labeled boxes, space to walk. I'll finish the rest tomorrow. There's no need to rush. I know, but I want to do it well. Owen nodded, respecting her determination. See you tomorrow, then. Eleanor went to get Chloe. The girl was sitting on the floor, surrounded by drawings. Let's go, sweetie. Done for today. Already, Mommy? Already. Let's go home. They went down the stairs together. At the bottom, Elena stopped and looked up at the building. Something had changed. She had a place to go. She had a purpose. She had her dignity back. In the following days, the routine repeated itself. Elena arrived early, worked non-stop, organized every corner of that room. Chloe stayed busy with her drawings, sometimes taking a little nap in her chair, other times going to her mom's room just for a hug. Owen watched everything from a distance. He saw Eleanor's dedication, the way she handled each document with care, as if it were important. The way she didn't complain, didn't ask for help, just got it done. And he saw how Chloe lit up the office. The girl's laughter echoed through the halls. Her drawings started appearing on the walls of the little room, bright colors in a space that was once just gray and white. The other two partners at the firm noticed too. Who is she? One of them asked Owen. Someone who needed a chance. She's doing an incredible job. I know. At the end of the first week, the archive room was almost unrecognizable, everything catalogued, everything in its right place. Elena had created a complete list of all the documents, with the exact location of each folder. Owen entered the room at the end of the day and stood there, impressed. You did all this in 1 week. Elena wiped her hands on the makeshift apron she had fashioned from a cloth. I did. There are still a few boxes in the corner to review, but the bulk of it is done. Owen shook his head, amazed. I underestimated you. Elena smiled, tired but happy. A lot of people do. I won't again, he promised. That evening, Elena went home exhausted, but with a different feeling in her chest. It wasn't just physical tiredness. It was the good kind of exhaustion, from someone who worked hard and saw results. Chloe fell asleep on the way, in her arms. Elena looked at her daughter and whispered, "We did it, my love. We're doing it." And for the first time in a long time, she truly believed it. The second week brought a more comfortable routine. Eleanor now knew the way from home to the office by heart. She knew where everything was, which coffee Owen preferred, what time the other partners arrived. She had found her rhythm, and more than that, she had found a place where she felt useful. And so had Chloe. The girl woke up early without complaining, got ready quickly, and held her mother's hand the whole way. She no longer asked, "Where are we going?" She knew. She was going to the place where her mom worked, and she drew, the place with plenty of paper, colored pencils, and a window that looked out onto the street. During breaks, Owen started to pop into the little room. At first, it was just a quick hi was a check to see if everything was okay. He'd open the door, peek in, see Chloe focused on her drawings, and close it again. But gradually, he started staying a little longer. He'd come in, sit in a chair, ask about the drawings. Listen to the stories Chloe made up with her boundless imagination. "Is this a dragon?" Owen asked during one of these breaks, pointing to a green scribble with enormous wings. Chloe rolled her eyes, as if the question were absurd. "No, it's a flying dinosaur." "Ah, of course. My apologies." She laughed, swinging her little legs that didn't reach the floor. "It's okay." "A lot of people get them mixed up." Owen smiled. He liked these conversations. They were light, weightless, uncomplicated. No cases, no deadlines, no pressure, just a child talking about flying dinosaurs. One day, in the middle of the afternoon, he showed up with a glass of orange juice. "Brought this for you?" Chloe took the glass with both hands, careful not to spill. "Thanks, nice man. You can call me Owen, you know." "Okay, Owen," she repeated, testing the name on her tongue. She took a sip and looked at him with that unfiltered childhood curiosity, that way of studying people without fear of being rude. "Do you work with papers all day?" "I do." "Isn't it boring?" Owen laughed at her frankness. "Sometimes it is. But someone has to do it." Chloe tilted her head to the side, thoughtful. She was quiet for a few seconds, just looking at him. Then she blurted out, "I thought lawyers were serious. You don't seem serious." Owen blinked, surprised by the comment. He wasn't expecting that. Then he smiled, a genuine smile. "I'm serious when I need to be, especially when I'm working." "And are you working now?" "Right now, I'm taking a break." Chloe seemed satisfied with the answer. She went back to her drawing, tongue sticking out again, concentrated. Owen stayed for a few more minutes, just watching. He didn't say anything, he didn't need to. His presence was enough. When he went back to his office, he felt something different, light. As if those few minutes with Chloe had cleared his head, as if they had put things into perspective. In the following days, the breaks became more frequent. Owen would show up with some excuse. He'd bring water, ask if Chloe wanted a snack, offer to get something. But the truth was, he liked being there. He liked the simplicity of that moment, the way Chloe treated him like a normal person, not an important lawyer. Eleanor noticed. She'd see through the archive room window when Owen went into the little room. She saw his smile. She saw how Chloe laughed, how comfortable she felt, and she felt her chest tighten. Not with sadness, not with fear. It was something else. Something like gratitude mixed with hope. The connection between the three of them grew slowly. There was no rush. It wasn't forced. There were no heavy expectations or grand promises. It was just natural, like a friendship that blossoms without warning, without planning. Sometimes, at the end of the day, the three of them would chat in the little room before leaving. Chloe would show off her drawings of the day, explaining every detail, every color choice. Eleanor would share something funny that had happened while she was organizing folders. Owen would laugh, genuinely. They were small moments, simple, but they meant everything. On a Thursday morning, Owen arrived at the office with a small bag in his hand. He had stopped by a stationery store on the way. He had gone in without planning just because he saw the window display, and he had bought a few things. He knocked on the little room's door before entering. Chloe was lying on the floor, coloring a large picture. "Can I come in?" "You can." He entered and knelt beside her, the bag hidden behind his back. "I brought you something." Chloe sat up quickly, curious, her eyes already sparkling with anticipation. "What is it?" Owen handed her the bag. She opened it slowly and her eyes lit up even more. Inside was a new notebook with a colorful hardcover, blue with little gold stars, new pencils, still sharpened, smelling of wood, a pencil case full of markers of every color. A white eraser, a metal sharpener, a small clear ruler. "For me?" Chloe asked, almost in disbelief. "For you." She took out each item slowly, as if they were fragile treasures. She ran her hand over the notebook cover, feeling the texture. She opened the pencil case and counted the markers, 1, 2, 3, 12 different colors. Are you serious? I'm serious. Chloe dropped everything on the floor and jumped into his arms, hugging him tightly, her thin little arms wrapped around Owen's neck. He was surprised at first, his body stiff for a second, but he soon returned the hug. He felt his heart squeeze in a way he hadn't expected. Thank you, Owen. Thank you. You're welcome, little one. When she let go, her eyes were shining with pure happiness. I'm going to draw the most beautiful picture in the world for you. Owen smiled, touched. I'll be waiting. He left the little room and ran into Elena in the hallway. She had seen everything through the half-open door. She was standing there, her eyes misty, her hands clasped in front of her. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly, her voice choked with emotion. I wanted to. But Owen, you've already done so much. Elena, he interrupted her, gently but firmly. Let me do this, please. She swallowed hard and nodded. She didn't have enough words to thank him. No words seemed to capture what she felt, so she just said, thank you. Owen nodded and went back to his office. Eleanor stood in the hallway for a while longer, trying to control her emotions. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, took a deep breath. That man was changing their lives, and he didn't even seem to realize the scale of it. The importance of these small gestures that meant everything. That afternoon, Chloe worked intently in her new notebook. She used all the markers, mixed colors, drew careful lines, erased when it wasn't right, redid it. She wanted it to be perfect, because it was a gift, and gifts had to be special. She worked for almost 2 hours, her tongue sticking out, her eyes focused, her small hand gripping the marker tightly. When she finished, she held the drawing carefully, as if it was something precious, and left the little room. She walked down the hall to Owen's office. The door was ajar. She knocked lightly, suddenly shy. Come in. His voice came from inside. Chloe pushed the door open slowly. Owen was sitting behind his large desk, reading some papers filled with difficult words. When he saw the little girl, he dropped everything at once. Hi, Chloe, is everything okay? She didn't answer. She just walked closer, held out her arm, and handed him the paper with both hands. I made this for you. Owen took the drawing carefully. He looked at it, and he felt a lump form in his throat. It was a drawing of 3 people sitting on a park bench, 2 blondes, 1 big and 1 small, and a man with dark hair beside them, all of them smiling. Big, happy smiles. The sky was blue, painted with care. There were colorful flowers on the ground, birds flying, a yellow sun in the corner. Below, written in a child's handwriting, crooked but legible, with all the care a 5-year-old could muster, you became our friend. Owen was silent, staring at the paper, at the drawing, at the sentence, feeling the weight of those simple words. He looked at Chloe, who was waiting for his reaction, nervously shifting from one foot to the other. Dad, you like it? He swallowed hard. He tried to speak, but his voice failed. He just nodded his head. I like it very much, he finally managed to say, his voice a little hoarse. Chloe smiled, relieved. That smile that lights up the whole face. It's us, me, Mommy, and you. I figured, Owen said, still looking at the drawing. He couldn't stop looking. At the way Chloe had drawn the 3 of them together, how she had put him there in the middle as part of their small world. Can I keep it? He asked. Of course. I made it for you, Chloe replied, as if it were obvious. Owen stood up slowly. He went to a wooden filing cabinet behind his desk. He opened a specific drawer, the one where he kept personal documents. Birth certificates, diplomas, important contracts, things that theoretically had value. He placed the drawing there with great care, on top, above everything else. I'm going to keep it here, in the safest place I have, he said, showing Chloe. She clapped her hands, jumping. That's so cool. Owen closed the drawer gently and knelt down to her level. I thank you, Chloe, really. This is the best gift I've ever received. Chloe didn't say anything, she just gave him a hug, quick, spontaneous, full of affection. Then she ran back to her little room, her small feet pattering on the hallway floor. Owen was left alone. He sat in his chair, looked at the closed drawer, took a deep breath, trying to process what he felt. Something had changed. It was no longer just a good deed. It wasn't just helping someone in need. It wasn't just giving an opportunity. It was more than that now. He cared, truly, about both of them, about Elena and Chloe, about what happened to them, about their future. And that was both frightening and warming at the same time. When Eleanor passed by his office later, at the end of the day, he was working as usual. But she noticed something different, a softness in his face, a spark in his eye, a lightness that wasn't there before. "Is everything okay?" she asked, standing at the door. Owen looked up and smiled, a calm, genuine smile. "Yes. Everything's great." Elena could tell he was telling the truth, and she smiled too, feeling something warm in her chest. That night, on the way home, Chloe couldn't stop talking. "Mommy, Owen really liked my drawing." "I know, sweetie. He was very happy." He put it in his special drawer. "The one where he keeps his important things." "He sure did," Elena confirmed, feeling her chest tighten again, that feeling of gratitude so immense it couldn't be contained. Chloe held her mother's hand and jumped over a puddle left from the morning rain. "He's our friend now, right, Mommy?" Eleanor looked at her daughter, at that happy, bright, confident little face. At that purity that still existed despite everything they had been through. "He is, my love. I think he is." And it was strange to say that, because it had been so long since Elena had a real friend, someone who cared, someone who was present without expecting anything in return, without judging, without demanding. But Owen was that. He had become that. Without warning. Without planning, it just happened. And she didn't yet know what to do with this new feeling growing inside her chest. It wasn't love. Not yet. It wasn't just gratitude. It was something else. It was trust. It was belonging. It was the feeling of having someone by her side. It was the feeling that finally they were no longer alone in the world. When they got to the rented room, Chloe was already half asleep. Elena put her to bed, took off her little shoes, covered her with the thin sheet, and kissed her forehead. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and watched her daughter sleep. Her peaceful breathing, her relaxed little face. She thought about Owen, about his smile, about the breaks he took just to be with Chloe, about the bag with the gifts, about the way he had looked at the drawing, the care with which he had put it away. And she thought about how, sometimes, life surprises you. How, in the midst of chaos and hardship, something good can appear. Someone good can appear. Out of nowhere. When you least expect it. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if this would last. She didn't know if they would stay close. But at that moment there, lying next to her daughter, Eleanor allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. And the feeling that maybe things really could get better. On Friday, at the end of the workday, Owen appeared in the archive room where Elena was working. She was kneeling by a low shelf, organizing the last folders of the day. When she heard his footsteps, she looked up. "Any plans for tonight?" Elena stood up, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Plans? Yeah, you and Chloe." She gave a half smile, almost shyly. "Our plans usually involve a simple dinner and an early bedtime." Owen leaned against the doorframe. "How about changing up the routine a bit? I wanted to invite you two to dinner." Eleanor blinked, processing. "Dinner?" "That's right. Nothing too formal. Just dinner. Talk." She hesitated. Not out of suspicion, but because she wasn't used to it. It had been so long since anyone had invited them to anything. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Owen replied, without hesitation. Elena looked down, fidgeting with her hands. "I don't want you to feel obligated." "Elena," Owen interrupted her gently. "I'm inviting you because I want to, not because I feel obligated." She took a deep breath and smiled. "Okay, we accept." "Great. I'll pick you up at 7. We can meet you there." "I'll pick you up," he insisted. Elena nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. At 7 o'clock sharp, Owen parked in front of the building where Elena and Chloe lived. It was a simple, old place, but she came down quickly with Chloe by the hand. The little girl was excited, her loose blonde hair bouncing as she skipped. "We're going out to dinner, Mommy." "Yes, we are, sweetie." Owen got out of the car and opened the back door for Chloe. "Hop in, little one." She climbed in, adjusting her little dress. Elena got in the front. The car was comfortable, clean, and smelled new. "Fair thank you for this," Elena said softly. "No need to thank me." The restaurant was only a few minutes away. It was the same one where they had first met. Simple, welcoming, honest food. Owen had chosen it on purpose. When they entered, the same waitress from before recognized them and smiled. "Good evening. Table for 3? "Please," Owen replied. They sat near the window. Chloe stared at the menu with wide eyes, reading the names of the dishes. "You can order whatever you want," Owen said. Chloe looked at her mom, seeking approval. Elena nodded, smiling. The waitress returned, and they placed their orders. Macaroni and cheese for Chloe, a chicken dish for Elena. Owen ordered the same. While they waited, the conversation started off light. Chloe talked about the new drawings she had made. Owen asked about the colors, about the stories. Eleanor watched quietly, smiling. When the food arrived, Chloe ate with gusto. Eleanor ate slowly, savoring it. Owen noticed how much she was enjoying it, how much that moment meant. After a while, Chloe started to yawn. Eleanor wiped her mouth with a napkin. "Tired, sweetie?" "I am," Chloe admitted, rubbing her eyes. "Want to go outside for some fresh air?" Owen suggested. Eleanor took Chloe to the restaurant door. The girl sat on a little bench outside. Eleanor returned to the table. That's when Owen asked gently, "Are you okay?" Eleanor looked at him. There was something in the question. Something beyond politeness. Why? Just wanted to know. For real." She took a deep breath, looked at her own hands. "There are good days and bad days. But now things are better." Owen remained silent, waiting, not pressuring her. Elena continued, her voice low. "Chloe's father left when she was 6 months old, said he wasn't ready. That he was too young, that it wasn't what he wanted." She paused, swallowed hard. "I was left alone. No family nearby, no real friends. I tried to work, but I couldn't afford daycare and rent at the same time." Owen listened in silence. He didn't interrupt. "I lost my job. Lost the apartment soon after." She looked out the window, watching Chloe swing her little legs on the bench. "We spent a few nights in shelters," Elena continued, her voice trembling. "Chloe was little. She didn't really understand. But I knew that wasn't a life for her." Her voice trembled more. "There were nights we only had bread to eat. There were days I didn't eat at all so she could, and I felt like a failure, as a mother, as a person." Owen felt his chest tighten. "You're not a failure, Elena." She looked at him, her eyes misty. "I felt like it, every day, watching my daughter go through that because of me." "It wasn't because of you," Owen said firmly. "You were abandoned. You were doing the best you could. That's not failure, that's strength." Elena quickly wiped her eyes. "I just wanted her to have a normal life. School, friends, a safe place to sleep. Things every child should have." "And she will," Owen said. "You're doing it. It's working out." Elena smiled, tremulously. "Because of you." "No, because of you. I just gave you an opportunity. You're the one who seized it and made it happen." There was a silence, not an uncomfortable one. It was filled with understanding. "Thank you for listening," Elena said quietly. "Thank you for trusting me." They finished their dinner in comfortable silence. When they left, Chloe was already half asleep. Owen picked her up. The little girl rested her head on his shoulder, her eyes closing. In the back seat of the car, Owen settled Chloe in carefully. The girl fell asleep almost instantly, her breathing peaceful, her mouth slightly open. Owen drove in silence. Elena looked out the window, but every now and then she'd glance at him in the reflection. "Thank you for tonight," she said quietly, so as not to wake Chloe. "It was nice," Owen replied, sincerely. They were quiet, but it was a different kind of silence, full of unsaid things, full of something that was growing between them. Eleanor looked at him. Owen sensed it and turned his face for a second, meeting her gaze. They didn't say anything. They didn't need to. Something had changed. They both knew it. It wasn't just gratitude anymore. It wasn't just friendship. It was something else, something deeper, something that was both scary and comforting at the same time. When they arrived at her building, Owen helped Elena get Chloe out of the car. The girl didn't wake up. Elena held her carefully in her arms. "Thor, can you get upstairs by yourself?" Owen asked. "I can." He stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at her. "Good night, Elena." "Good night, Owen." She went into the building. Owen watched until she disappeared up the stairs. Then he got back in the car and sat for a few minutes, just thinking. That night, Elena laid Chloe in bed and watched her daughter sleep. She thought about their conversation, about how she had opened her heart, about how Owen had listened without judgment, and she thought about the look they had exchanged in the car, the silence full of meaning. Something had changed, and she didn't know exactly what, but she felt it, in her chest, in that place where important things happen first. And for the first time in a long time, Elena allowed herself to think that maybe, just maybe, she could have something more, something beyond survival, something like really living. On Monday morning, the office felt different. Elena noticed it as soon as she arrived. There was a tension in the air. Owen was in his office with the other two partners, their voices low but serious. Papers were spread across the desk, worried expressions. She didn't want to interfere. She went straight to the archive room. Chloe followed her, already used to the routine. All morning, Owen didn't appear, not to say hi, not to see Chloe, nothing. Elena knew something was wrong. In the middle of the afternoon, he finally appeared at her door. His face was tired, his tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. "Elena, do you have a minute?" Of course. She followed him to his office. The other partners had left. Owen sat behind his desk and ran a hand over his face. "Is everything okay?" Elena asked. "An old case came back," he said directly. "An important client we've represented for years. His company is being sued for breach of contract. It's serious. It could ruin his business." Eleanor listened in silence. "The problem is, we need to prove that a specific clause existed in the original contract, a clause that changes everything. But the document we have is incomplete. Pages are missing." He sighed. "I remember seeing the complete contract years ago, but I don't know where it ended up." Elena crossed her arms. "When was this contract from?" 2007. "And do you remember any details, a name?" Owen thought. "The client's name is Hartman, James Hartman." "It was a partnership, something related to imports." Elena nodded. "I can help look for it." Owen looked at her. "Elena, there are boxes and boxes of old documents. It could be impossible to find." "Or it might not be," she replied firmly. "It's worth a try." He hesitated but nodded. "Okay, thank you." Elena returned to the archive room with determination. Over the next few days, she dove headfirst into the search. She started with the organized boxes, went through the files from 2007, 2006, 2008. She opened folder after folder, read document after document. Chloe stayed in her little room, but every now and then she would go to her mother. "Mommy, what are you looking for?" "Something important, sweetie." "Are you going to find it?" "I'm going to try." Elena worked past her usual hours. Owen noticed. Sometimes he brought her coffee. Other times, he just showed up to see how it was going. "You don't have to do this," he would say. "I know. But I want to." By the third day, Eleanor had gone through half the room. Piles of dusty papers surrounded her, faded folders stacked up, yellowed notes. Nothing. On the fourth day, she started to lose hope. Her hands ached, her eyes burned. Maybe the document had been lost, maybe thrown away, but she didn't give up. On the afternoon of the 5th day, Elena was kneeling in the back of the room. There were 3 old boxes leaning against the wall, stained cardboard, yellowed packing tape. She opened the first one, documents from closed cases, nothing useful. Opened the second, more of the same. The third was heavier. Elena sat on the floor and started taking out the papers slowly. Dust rose, old folders, contracts, receipts, correspondence. And then she saw it. A manila folder, slightly crumpled, with a name handwritten on it. Hartman, Imports, 2007. Elena's heart beat faster. She opened it carefully, her hands trembling. Inside, various documents, receipts, letterheads, and at the back, stapled together, a contract. Eleanor took it and flipped through it. 15 pages, complete. With all the signatures, with all the clauses. She searched, scanning quickly. On page 11 she found it, a specific clause, detailed, about contract termination in cases of changes in international legislation. That was it. Elena stood up quickly, holding the folder. She left the room, almost running. She knocked on Owen's door. "Come in!" His tired voice came from inside. Elena opened it. Owen was sitting, glasses on. When he saw her expression, he sat up straight. "Did something happen?" Elena placed the folder on his desk. "I found it." Owen blinked. "Found what?" "The contract, the Hartman contract, complete." His eyes widened. He grabbed the folder, opened it, and started flipping through it quickly. He stopped on page 11. He read in silence. Once, twice. His face changed. His eyes widened. His breathing quickened. "I don't believe it," he murmured. "Is it what you were looking for?" Elena asked. Owen kept reading. Then he looked up. "It's exactly what I was looking for." "Exactly." He stood up, still holding the document. "This clause right here," he pointed, "changes everything. It proves Hartman didn't breach the contract. He was within his rights." Eleanor felt a warmth in her chest. "Really?" "Really?" Owen looked at her. "Elena, you have no idea what this means. This case could completely turn around." He walked around the desk. "I searched for days. The other partners too. We were about to give up." He stopped in front of her. "And you found it? In 5 days, in the middle of hundreds of boxes?" Elena shrugged. "I just looked properly. I didn't give up." "No." Owen shook his head. "It was more than that. You were persistent, dedicated, you cared." He looked her in the eyes. "You saved this case." Eleanor felt her eyes sting. It was the recognition, the feeling that she had made a difference. "I just wanted to help," she said softly. "And you did. A lot." Owen placed the contract on the desk, picked up the phone. "I need to call Hartman. I need to tell the other partners." Elena smiled. "Hi, then I'll let you work." "Elena," he called after her, "seriously, thank you so much." "You're welcome." She left, closing the door slowly. In the hallway, she stopped, leaned against the wall, took a deep breath. She had done it. She had done something important. She had proven her worth. And for the first time in a long time, Elena felt capable, competent, essential. That night, when she left with Chloe, Owen walked her to the door. "There's a meeting with the client tomorrow. I'd like you to be there." Elena blinked, surprised. "Me? You. You're the one who found the document. You're part of this." "But I'm not a lawyer." "It doesn't matter," Owen said firmly. "You're part of the team. And Hartman will want to thank you personally." Elena didn't know what to say. She just nodded. "Okay, I'll be there." Owen smiled. "Great." They said their goodbyes. Elena and Chloe went down the stairs hand in hand. "Mommy, did you help Owen?" Chloe asked. "I did, sweetie." "Was he happy?" "He was," Chloe smiled. "Hi, you're really good at your job, Mommy." Elena squeezed her daughter's hand, her chest overflowing. "Thank you, my love." That night, lying next to Chloe, Elena thought about everything. The search, the discovery, Owen's expression. You saved this case. The words echoed in her head, and she realized something important. It was no longer just about receiving help. Now it was about giving it you too, about contributing. And that changed everything, because for the first time, Eleanor didn't feel like a burden. She didn't feel like someone who only received. She felt like someone who had something to offer, and that was worth more than any salary. 3 weeks after the Hartman case, Owen entered the archive room with a strange expression on his face. Elena was organizing some new documents that had arrived. When she saw him standing in the doorway, she stopped what she was doing. "Is everything okay?" Owen came in and closed the door behind him. "I need to ask you something." Elena felt a tightness in her chest. He seemed too serious. "Of course, what is it?" "Have you ever worked for a company called Morrison Textiles?" Elena's eyes widened. She never expected to hear that name again. "I did. About 2 years ago." "Why?" Owen crossed his arms. "Because they're being sued. Poor working conditions, wrongful termination, unpaid overtime. There are at least 15 former employees involved." Elena fell silent. The memories came flooding back. The 12-hour shifts, the yelling boss, the day she was fired for missing work when Chloe got sick. "You were fired from there, weren't you?" Owen asked gently. Elena nodded, a lump in her throat. "I was. My daughter got sick. I couldn't leave her alone. I missed one day. The next day they let me go, said I wasn't reliable." Owen took a deep breath. "Do you have anything saved? A pay stub? Termination notice? Any document?" Elena thought. "I do. I kept everything. I don't know why. I guess I was afraid I'd need to prove I worked there. Can you show me?" "I can. It's all in a folder at home." Owen looked her in the eyes. "Eleanor, I think you have a case, a strong one. You were wrongfully terminated. You have the right to sue them too." She shook her head nervously. "Owen, I don't know. That was a long time ago." "It doesn't matter. You have 2 years to file a labor claim. There's still time." "But I don't have money for a lawyer." Owen gave a half smile. "You already have a lawyer, and he works for free." Eleanor felt her eyes sting. "You don't have to do this." "I know I don't have to. I want to." That night, Eleanor brought the folder with the documents to the office. Owen spent hours analyzing every paper, pay stubs, time cards, the poorly written termination notice. It was all there. "This is enough," he said finally. "More than enough." In the following days, Owen built the case. He talked to Elena, noted every detail, the unpaid overtime, the poor conditions, the wrongful termination. "It's going to be tough," he warned. "They'll try to discredit you. They'll say you were a bad employee, that you missed work a lot, that you deserve to be fired." "I know," Elena said firmly, "but I want to try." Owen smiled. "Then let's try." He filed the lawsuit 2 weeks later. Elena was the plaintiff, Morrison Textiles, the defendant. The following months were difficult. The company's lawyer tried everything, said Elena was negligent, that she had a history of absences, that the termination was justified. But Owen countered every point. He presented the pay stubs proving the overtime. He brought in witnesses, other former employees who confirmed the poor conditions. He showed that Elena had been fired for a single justified day of absence. Elena followed everything, every hearing, every testimony. Sometimes she was scared, other times angry, but Owen was always by her side. "You're doing great," he would say, "and stay strong." The trial took place on a cold October morning. Elena was nervous. Chloe was staying with a neighbor who had offered to help. Owen was beside her, formally dressed, prepared. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The session began. The lawyers presented their closing arguments. The one from Morrison Textiles tried to downplay everything, said these were common practices, that Elena didn't have enough proof. Owen stood up and rebutted, point by point. He presented documents, cited laws. He defended Elena with everything he had. When he finished, he sat next to her and whispered, "Now we wait." The judge retired to deliberate. Half an hour later, he returned. Having reviewed all the evidence presented, he began, his voice firm. "This court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Elena Martins. Elena's heart pounded. The company Morrison Textiles is found liable for wrongful termination, failure to pay overtime, and poor working conditions. The defendant shall pay the plaintiff the sum of $25,000 in compensation and damages. Elena couldn't hold it back. The tears came. She covered her face with her hands. Owen placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did it." She looked at him, her eyes red but shining. "We did it." They left the courthouse together. Elena was still in shock. $25,000. It was more money than she had ever seen in her life. "I don't believe it," she kept repeating. "I don't believe it." "Believe it," Owen said, smiling. "You deserved it. You fought. And you won." Elena stopped on the sidewalk. She looked at him. "Thank you. For everything. For believing in me. For defending me. For everything." Owen shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. You did the hardest part. You had courage." That night, Eleanor told Chloe, "We won, sweetie." Mommy won. Chloe didn't fully understand, but she felt her mother's happiness. "Is that good, Mommy?" "It's very good, my love, very good." In the following days, Eleanor began to plan. For the first time, she had money, real money. It wasn't just for surviving, it was for living. She could rent a better apartment. She could buy new clothes for Chloe. She could enroll her daughter in a real school. She could have a future. But more than the money, it was the validation. For the first time, Eleanor felt her voice had been heard, that her fight had been worth it, that she hadn't been just another invisible person being exploited. She had fought, and she had won. A week later, she was in Owen's office, sitting in front of his desk. "The money was deposited yesterday," she said. "Great." Elena took a deep breath. "I wanted to do something. I wanted to pay you for your services. I know you said no, but..." Owen held up a hand, interrupting her. "No. Don't even think about it. Owen." "Elena, I didn't do it for the money. I did it because it was the right thing to do, because you deserved it." She felt her eyes sting again. "But I need to do something." "You already have," Owen said simply. "You trusted me, you fought. That's enough." Eleanor was silent. Then she smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Thank you. You're welcome." She got up to leave, but stopped at the door. "Owen?" "Yes." "You changed my life. You know that, right?" Owen looked at her, that soft gaze she knew so well by now. "You changed your own life. I just helped." Elena smiled again and left. That night, lying next to Chloe, Elena thought about everything. The journey, the struggles, the victories. It had started with a plate of food, a simple gesture, and it had transformed into something so much bigger. She had a job, she had money saved, she had dignity, she had a future, and she had someone by her side, someone who believed in her, someone who saw her. Their lives had changed, for real. And for the first time in a long time, Elena allowed herself to dream of good things, of a better future. Because now, finally, that future was possible. The apartment wasn't large. 2 small bedrooms, a living room with an integrated kitchen, a bathroom, but it was theirs. Elena signed the lease on a Tuesday morning. Her hands trembled as she wrote her name. Not from fear, from happiness. "There you go," the landlady said, handing her the keys. "Welcome." Elena held the keys as if they were gold. Chloe jumped beside her, excited. "Do we have a real house, Mommy?" "We do, my love, a real house." The apartment was in a quiet neighborhood, 3rd floor of a simple but well-maintained building. It had a large window in the living room that let the sun in. The floor was hardwood, a bit worn but clean. The walls were painted a light, neutral color. They didn't have much to move in. Some clothes, Chloe's drawings, important documents. But every item carried into the apartment felt precious. "This will be your room," Elena said, opening the door to the smaller of the 2 bedrooms. Chloe ran in, her eyes shining. There was a window that looked out onto the street. You could see the trees below. "It's so pretty, Mommy." Elena smiled, feeling her chest tighten with emotion. Over the next few days, they slowly furnished the space. Eleanor bought a twin bed for Chloe, colorful bedding, a small desk where the girl could draw. She also bought a used sofa, but in good condition, for the living room, a simple table for the kitchen. It wasn't luxury, but it was comfort. It was security. It was theirs. "Mommy, are we going to live here forever?" Chloe asked one evening, while Elena was putting things away in the kitchen. "We are, sweetie, for as long as we want." Chloe smiled and went back to playing on the living room floor. Elena stopped what she was doing and watched her daughter. For the first time in a long time, Chloe seemed relaxed. She didn't have that tension that children get when they feel instability. She was home. 2 weeks after the move, Elena came home with some news. "Chloe, come here," she called, kneeling in front of her daughter. "What is it, Mommy?" Elena held her little hands. "You're going to start school." Chloe's eyes widened. "A real school. A real school." "Next week." The little girl jumped up, shouting with joy. "Am I going to have friends? Am I going to learn to read?" "You will, my love. All of that." Chloe hugged her mother tightly. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the tears come. She had fought so hard for this moment, and it was finally happening. On Friday, the day before the first day of school, Elena was in the kitchen making dinner when someone knocked on the door. She went to answer it. It was Owen. "Hi," he said, with that gentle smile. "Can I come in?" "Of course." Owen came in, looking around. "It looks nice. Cozy." "Thanks. We're loving it." Chloe came running from her room. "Owen!" He knelt and she jumped into his arms for a hug. "Hi, little one. How are you?" "Great. I'm starting school on Monday." "I know," Owen said, smiling. "That's why I came." He had a bag in his hand. He held it out to Chloe. "I brought you something." Chloe took the bag, curious. She put it on the floor and started taking things out. And then her eyes lit up. A backpack, brand new, pink with blue details, with a large compartment and side pockets. "For me," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "For you," Owen confirmed. Chloe took the backpack out of the bag and hugged it as if it were a treasure. Then she looked inside and saw more things. New notebooks, colored pencils still in their packaging, pens, an eraser, a sharpener, a ruler, glue, safety scissors, everything a child needs to start school. Owen. Chloe was speechless. She picked up each item, one by one, examining it carefully. Her little eyes shone with pure happiness. "Look, Mommy, look at everything I got." Eleanor was standing, leaning against the wall, her hands covering her mouth, her eyes misty. Owen stood up and looked at her. "Are you okay?" Elena couldn't speak. She just nodded, wiping her eyes. Chloe was on the floor, organizing her supplies, talking to herself about what she would use first. Owen walked over to Elena. "I know you were going to buy all this," he said quietly, "but I wanted to be part of this moment. I wanted her to know that there are people cheering for her." Elena finally managed to speak, her voice choked with emotion. "You have no idea how much this means." "I think I do," Owen replied gently. "No." Elena shook her head, tears falling now. "You don't. I've dreamed of this day since she was born. Seeing my daughter with a new backpack, going to school, having a normal life, and you were a part of all of it." She wiped her face, trying to compose herself. "Without you, we'd still be in that rented room, with no prospects, no future. And now we have a home. She's going to school. We have a life." Owen was silent. He didn't know what to say. "Thank you," Elena said, looking him in the eyes. "For everything, for every gesture, for every bit of help, for believing in us." Owen smiled in his simple way. "You two deserve it." Chloe appeared between them, holding the backpack. "Owen, are you coming to my school on the first day?" He looked at Elena, silently asking for permission. She nodded, smiling. "If your mum says it's okay, I'll be there." "It's okay," Elena said. Chloe jumped for joy. "It's going to be the best day of my life." Owen laughed. Elena did too. They had dinner together that night. At the small kitchen table, with simple but hearty plates, Chloe couldn't stop talking about school, about the friends she would make, about what she would learn. Owen and Elena exchanged glances, a look of complicity, affection, something that had grown slowly, without rush, but was now undeniable. When he left, it was already late. Chloe had fallen asleep on the sofa, tired from all the excitement. Elena carried her to her room and tucked her in. Then she went back to the living room and stared out the window. The street was quiet. A few lights on in the windows of other apartments, life going on. She thought about everything that had happened in the last few months, the changes, the achievements, the people who had appeared in her life, and she thought about Owen, about how he had changed everything, without expecting anything in return, without demands, just helping, just being present. Eleanor didn't know exactly what she felt for him. Was it gratitude? Was it friendship? Was it something more? Maybe it was all of those things combined. But one thing she knew for sure, he was part of their lives now, and she couldn't imagine what it would be like without him anymore. That night, before falling asleep, Elena wrote on a piece of paper, Chloe's first day of school, new home, new life, new beginning. She folded the paper and put it in a small box where she kept important things. One day, when Chloe was older, she would show it to her. She would tell her the whole story. She would tell her how they had fought, how they had won, and how in the midst of it all, they had found someone who made a difference, someone who cared, someone who stayed. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, without realizing exactly when it happened, Owen stopped being an occasional visitor. He became a part of their daily lives, part of the routine, part of life. At first, there were planned visits. A dinner here, a coffee there, always at a set time, always with advance notice. Elena would tidy up the house, prepare something special, get a little nervous. But after a while, things changed. Owen started showing up unannounced. He'd knock on the door late in the afternoon, still in his suit, coming straight from the office. Sometimes he'd bring something, a cake he bought at the bakery, a book he thought Chloe would like, a chocolate bar. Other times he'd show up empty-handed, just because he wanted to, because he felt like being there. And Elena always opened the door with a smile, no longer nervous, just happy to see him. "You again," she'd say, pretending to tease. "Me again," he'd reply, smiling, already taking off his shoes at the entrance like someone who's home. Sometimes he'd stay for dinner. He'd sit at the small kitchen table, chatting while Elena cooked. Chloe would show him her new drawings from school, her notebooks filled with letters and numbers, tell him about her friends, her teacher, what she had learned. Owen listened to everything with genuine attention. He asked questions. He was interested. He laughed at the funny stories Chloe told with that childlike enthusiasm. Other times he'd just stay for a little while, have a coffee, talk about the day, about a case at the office, about some news, and then he'd leave. But his presence, however brief, left something in the air. A warmth, a good feeling, the certainty that he would be back. There was one night he arrived late, almost 9 o'clock. Chloe was already asleep, her quiet breathing coming from her room. "Sorry about the time," he said when Eleanor opened the door, his voice low. "I had a hearing that ran late. I was going to go straight home, but I ended up here." Elena smiled, opening the door wider. "Want to come in? If it's not a bother." "It's never a bother." They sat on the sofa. Elena served hot tea. They talked quietly so as not to wake Chloe. About work, about how difficult the case had been, about life, about nothing and everything. Sometimes they sat in silence, just being there, the sound of the city outside. When Owen left, it was past midnight. Elena stood at the door, watching him go down the stairs, and she realized that this had become natural, comfortable, as if he had always been a part of that space, as if he had always belonged there. Owen started picking Chloe up from school sometimes. Elena would tell him he didn't have to, that she could get her after work. But he insisted in his own way. "I pass right by. It's no trouble at all. So Chloe would wait at the school gate, among the other children, her pink backpack on. And when she saw his car pull up, her little face would light up. "Go, Owen." He'd get out of the car, kneel on the sidewalk, and she'd run to hug him. "Hey, little one, how was your day?" "It was great. We learned about the planets today." "The planets? That's cool. Tell me everything." And on the way home, Chloe would tell him. She'd talk about Jupiter, about Saturn's rings, about how tiny Earth is compared to the sun. Owen listened attentively, asked questions, pretended not to know things just to let her explain. When they arrived at the apartment, Elena would already be home. Chloe would run inside, throw her backpack on the sofa, and head straight for the kitchen. Owen always stayed at the door for a few minutes, chatting, asking how Elena's day was too. "You don't have to do this," Elena would say, but with no real force in her voice, because deep down she liked it. She liked knowing Chloe was being looked after. She liked seeing him there. "I know I don't have to, but I like to." Fridays became pizza night. No one officially arranged it. No one scheduled it. It just happened. It started with Owen showing up one Friday with a pizza box, saying he'd ordered too much. Then it became a habit. Every Friday, he'd show up in the late afternoon with pizza boxes. Margarita for Elena, pepperoni for Chloe, a combo for himself. They would eat in the living room, sitting on the floor, Chloe between the two of them. They'd watch a movie on Elena's laptop. Usually animated movies chosen by Chloe. They'd laugh at the silly jokes, sing along with the songs. Elena noticed how happy Chloe was on those nights, how she looked forward to Friday, how she'd wake up in the morning and say, "Today is pizza night with Owen," how she had created a routine that included him, and Elena also noticed how she herself looked forward to it, how she'd watch the clock on Friday afternoons, thinking he'd be there soon, how she'd tidy up the apartment a little earlier, how she'd tie her hair back a different way. It wasn't planned, it wasn't calculated, it just was, as natural as breathing. One Saturday morning, Owen showed up early. It was 8 o'clock. Eleanor had just woken up. "I thought we could go out," he said when she opened the door, still in her pajamas and her hair messy. "Take Chloe to a park. It's a beautiful day out." Eleanor blinked, still processing. "You didn't say you were coming." "I know. Sorry. I should have called. Is that a problem?" She smiled, pushing her hair out of her face. "No." "Give me 10 minutes. They went to the park, the biggest one in the city, full of trees with a lake in the middle. Chloe took off running as soon as they arrived. She went straight for the swings, then the slide, then the seesaw, where she made friends with other kids in seconds. Elena and Owen sat on a wooden bench, watching. The sun was warm but pleasant. There was a light breeze that carried the smell of cut grass. "She's changed so much," Owen commented, his eyes on the girl who was laughing loudly. "She has," Elena agreed, smiling. "She's more carefree, happier, more of a kid." "So have you." Elena looked at him. "So have I, what?" "Changed. You're more relaxed. You smile more." She thought for a moment. It was true. She no longer carried that constant weight on her shoulders, that tension of not knowing what the next day would bring. "It's because I have solid ground now," she said simply, looking ahead. "I have something to stand on. I have security. I have a place to come back to." Owen nodded, also looking ahead, at the swaying trees. "I'm happy for you." "For both of you." They sat in silence, but it was a comfortable silence, full of things unsaid but deeply understood, full of presence. Chloe came running back, her face flushed from playing so hard, her hair escaping from her ponytail. "I'm hot. Can we get ice cream?" Owen looked at Elena. She looked back, and they both smiled. "Let's go," Elena said, and they went. The three of them, walking side by side, Chloe in the middle, holding both of their hands, like a unit, like a family, like something that made profound sense. The months passed like that. Summer arrived, hot and bright. Then autumn, with its golden leaves. Then winter, with its cold mornings and long nights. Chloe grew. She learned to read on her own. She brought home little books that she devoured in days. more elaborate drawings, with complete stories behind them. Essays written in a still crooked but increasingly legible hand. Elena framed every piece of work on the refrigerator. Owen kept showing up. Dinners during the week. Conversations in the living room after Chloe was asleep. Weekends at the park, the movies, the zoo. Sometimes he'd stay to watch a movie and end up falling asleep on the sofa because it got too late. Elena would cover him with a blanket, turn off the lights, and go to bed smiling. His presence became constant, expected, natural, filled with an affection that no one named but everyone felt. It had no label, no official definition, no serious talk about what we were, but it was there, solid, real, undeniable. Elena felt that for the first time in a long time, she was no longer alone in the world. She had someone to count on, someone who showed up, someone who stayed, someone who cared not out of obligation but out of choice. And that changed everything. It changed how she saw the future. It changed how she saw herself. One night, after Chloe had fallen asleep, Eleanor and Owen were talking in the living room. It was late, almost midnight, but neither of them was sleepy. "Have you ever thought about going back to school?" he asked, out of the blue. Elena was holding a cup of tea. She blinked, surprised. "School?" "Yeah. Taking a course, college." "You're smart, organized, a fast learner. You could study law, business, anything you want." She had never thought about it. The idea seemed too distant, impossible, something other people did. "I don't know. I have Chloe. I have work. There's no time." "You can manage it," Owen said calmly. "There are night classes, Saturday classes. And I can help with Chloe when you need me. Pick her up from school, stay with her while you study." Eleanor looked at him. He was serious. He truly believed she could do it. "Do you really think I can?" "I know you can. You've managed everything up to now. This would be no different." She was silent, processing. It was scary, but also exciting. The possibility of growing, of being more... "I'll think about it," she said finally, a small smile on her lips. Owen smiled back. "That's all I ask." The days went on. The routine continued its course, but now with a difference. Eleanor started to dream again, not just about surviving, but about growing, about building, about having a future that went beyond the basics. And Owen was there always, encouraging, supporting, believing, present. One April morning, 6 months after Chloe's first day of school, Elena and Owen took her to school together. It was a special day. Chloe had a presentation. She was going to recite a poem she had memorized. She was nervous and excited at the same time, bouncing from one foot to the other. "Are you guys going to stay and watch?" she asked for the third time, as Elena fixed her hair. "We will, sweetie," Elena replied patiently. "Both of you?" "Both of us," Owen confirmed, tying his own shoes near the door. Chloe smiled, relieved, and ran to get her backpack. They left together, Owen's car parked in front of the building. The sky was blue, cloudless. One of those perfect autumn days. When they got to the school, other children were already arriving, parents dropping them off, grandparents, older siblings, everyone excited for the presentation. Chloe got out of the car, her pink backpack on. She waved to some friends. "I'm going in," she announced. "Good luck, sweetie," Elena said. "You're going to be amazing," Owen added. Chloe grinned and ran off to join the other students who were already lining up. Elena and Owen stayed outside near the school entrance. Other parents were waiting too, talking amongst themselves, laughing, taking pictures. "She's so big," Elena said, watching her daughter from a distance. "It feels like just yesterday she was a baby in my arms." "She is," Owen agreed, his hands in his pockets. Eleanor kept watching. She saw Chloe talking animatedly with the other children. She saw her laugh. She saw her climb the school steps with confidence. "It feels like yesterday we were in that restaurant," she said, her voice lower, sharing a plate of pasta. "Pretending I wasn't hungry." Owen looked at her. He didn't say anything, just looked. Elena continued, her eyes still on Chloe. "It feels like yesterday I didn't know what the next day would bring, if we would have a place to sleep, if we would have food." She paused, a lump forming in her throat. And now, look where we are. Owen remained silent, just watching. Present. Eleanor turned her face to him, her eyes shining. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For everything. For that day. For all the days after. For being here. Owen smiled, that gentle smile she knew so well. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Elena felt something move in her chest, something big. Something that had grown slowly but was now impossible to ignore. And then, without much thought, without planning, without calculating, Elena took his hand. Owen looked down, surprised, then at her. Elena didn't let go. She didn't explain. She just held on, firmly, gently, genuinely. Owen intertwined his fingers with hers, squeezed back. They didn't say anything. They didn't need to. They stood there, hand in hand, watching Chloe walk into school, watching the life they had built, brick by brick, day by day, gesture by gesture. And they both knew, without needing to speak, everything had changed since that first shared plate. It wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It wasn't destiny written in the stars. It was courage. Helena's courage to accept help when she needed it most, to trust a stranger, to keep trying even when everything seemed impossible. It was kindness. Owen's kindness to see when others didn't, to act when others walked by, to stay when it would have been easier to leave. And it was connection, a bond built slowly, without rush, with truth. Without grand promises or dramatic declarations, just presence, just being there, just choosing, day after day, to be a part of it. Eleanor squeezed Owen's hand a little tighter. He squeezed back, his thumb gently caressing hers. They looked forward again, at the school, at Chloe, who was now waving one last time before entering the building. They both waved back. And at that moment, under the gentle April sun, holding hands on a school sidewalk, Eleanor and Owen knew they had found something rare, something precious. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't without challenges. It wasn't without pain along the way. But it was real. It was true. It was built with care, and it was theirs. Life had changed, for the better, forever. And it all began with a simple gesture, a plate of food in a simple restaurant, an outstretched hand, a choice to see another person, to care, to stay, and be a part of it all. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like, because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.